In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to make this cute little miniature sweater. And I'm going to break it down from the very beginning to the very end and kind of go row by row, but for the sake of the video not being really long, I am going to skip ahead to the end of the row a lot of the time when we're actually into it. So what you'll want to do is download the PDF that is in the description and follow along with that so you can cross off the rows, and it'll make it easier, especially with the increase rows, to see like where am I at in this, have I done it, but the video will show the techniques a few times, so hopefully that will be helpful. If you're relatively new to knitting, I would recommend going through and watching this playlist in order so that then you can understand how to knit, how to purl, which is really all you need to go into this video, because this is going to teach you how to decrease with knit two together and purl two together, as well as how to increase by knitting one front, one back. For supplies on this, we're going to need 50 yards of the main color.
50 each.
And I will say you won't need that much probably, but that is just to make sure that there are no issues running out. Better to have more than less. I did grab just a little bit of an accent color because I wanted to make like an avocado sweater, so I used that. I'll talk more about that in the demonstration. A tapestry needle, 5mm needles. If you have circular needles, that's totally fine. That might actually be better. And then scissors. Part 1, yoke setup. Alright, this video is going to go step by step through every single row of the pattern, and I'm going to have up here which row we're on, and you know, that will be available. But what I would recommend is for you to download and print the PDF in the description, because that is going to make it easier to follow along and see like which row you're on, all that kind of stuff, how it translates to what I'm showing in the video. So the first thing that we are going to do is cast on 26 stitches using the long tail cast on, and this is going to be using the main color. Now we start at the neckline, and since I'm going for like an avocado kind of sweater, I'm going to start with brown because I want the neckline and the cuffs and the bottom hem to be brown. And you want for the tail that you do to be relatively long, I'd say about a yard or so. With the long tail cast on, it's always better to do longer than you think it should be in order to make sure that you don't run out, because you can always cut off the excess. All right, so I get one of my needles, and I'm gonna start. So 2, and then 3, 4, and 26. All right, so now I'm ready to begin with row number 1. Now row number 1 says knit 1, purl 1 across the row. So this is just a regular 1x1 rib. So we're gonna make sure, I might recommend that you cut the tail now, just so that we don't get that distracted with the working yarn. So I would just leave it to, it's about 5 inches or so, because we will weave that in at the end. So we're gonna go, it's just a regular 1x1 rib. We go in, we knit the first stitch, and then we switch the yarn to the front. We purl the next one, and then we switch it again. We knit, and we're at the end. The last one is a purl. Now since we end on a purl, when we go on to row number 2, we are now going to be on a knit. But another way that you can tell is if you look at the fabric, you can see this is a knit because we have the line. This is a bump, so it's a purl, knit, purl, etc. So row 2 is going to be exactly the same as row number 1. We're going to knit and then purl. We purl at the end of this row. Okay. So that is it for the neck trim right there. So nice and simple, just 2 rows of 1x1 rib. If you are just doing one solid color for your sweater, you would just continue on to row number 3. But since I am actually going to be changing colors to this green for my avocado sweater, I'm actually going to switch colors. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this yarn, leaving about that much tail, and I'm gonna grab my green and I'm gonna pull out about the same amount of tail right here, so you can see that. And since row number 3 is just a regular purl row, what I wanna do is drape this green yarn over my needle, and then I'm going to start purling across. So I'm just purl 1, 2, 3, there we go. All right, so that is our last one. And pull that a little tighter. Now I am ready for row number 4. So I turn my work, and this is when it gets kind of interesting because now we are going to be setting up for the sleeves. So in this part, we are going to introduce the KFB, which means knit front back. And this is how we increase, and it's putting 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So I'm gonna show you that. What we have for row number 4 is knit 3 first. So we're gonna go in and knit 1, 2, and 3, just like normal. And then we arrive at our first KFB. So what we are going to do, we'll start it normally. We go in, wrap it, push it through. But rather than sliding it off, we are going to go back into that same stitch. So rather than slide off, we find this loop at the back. I'm gonna kind of show you right there. We go into that loop, we wrap it, we push it through there, and we slide that off. And I will show that again, but that's KFB. All right, so it's knit 3, KFB, and then we knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another KFB. So again, I knit in the front. Before I slide it off, I turn it like that. I go in the back. I wrap it again. I push it through. There we go. And I slide it off. And then again, I go 1, 2. There we go. So we got that. So this might be a good opportunity to check to make sure that you have 31 stitches on your needle. And so then we turn, and luckily this one is nice and simple. We are just going to do a purl row. So we're gonna go in and purl across normally for row number 5. So just purling every single stitch. And our last stitch here, we purl. All right, so now we are going to turn it, and we are back to an increase row. And on here, we are going to knit 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that 5 is going to be the back on the left side. That's the left back of the sweater. So it's 5, and then it is knit 1 front, 1 back. And then it's knit 1, and then front, back. And then it is 2, so 1, 2, and that is our first sleeve, or will become our first sleeve through the increases. And then front, back, 1, and then front, back, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that is the front of the sweater. And then front, back, one, front, back, and then 1, 2, front, back, 1, front, back, 1. That was the other sleeve, by the way. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the right back. We just finished the left back. Initially here, this is the right back. So we are going to fold it over that way at the end and sew it together. And that'll make more sense when we get to it. But for now, we'll just go row by row. And that was the end of row number 6. So the big thing is, I'm not gonna go as in depth for every single row, just so the video isn't like 3 hours or whatever it would be. But I just wanted to explain, as we're doing those increases, what section we are working across. All right, row number 7 is nice and easy. Again, we just purl. Pretty much we are increasing on knit rows and then purling across the back and then continuing that process. So I'm gonna go all the way across here. All right, so I purl the last one, and now we are on to row 8, which is again an increase row. So we start off, we knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're gonna go front, back, 1, 6. Then on to row 9, which is a purl. We switch and we go again. So purl across that row for row number 9 and like that. And then we are on to row number 10, which is another increase row. So I'll just show the beginning. We are going to knit 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then front, back, and then continue 1, 7. Now this is a good opportunity to count to make sure that we have 55 stitches. And as we can see, it's getting relatively large at this point. But that's it for row 10. Row 11, we are going to purl across once again. All right, so we purl the last one and then we turn. We are now on row number 12. So again, increase row. First little part, we knit 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then go front, back, and continue. 8. So row 13 is a purl row, so we are just going to go ahead and do that. All right, now we are at the end, and that is it for row 13. For row 14, the good news is this is our last increase row, and we are going to get up to 71 stitches, which is the most it's going to be. So we start that off like we've done before. We knit 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to purl across once again. All right, so we purl the last one and then we turn. Part 2, sleeves. This is editing, Mr. Kuhn. Something happened where the file got corrupted for the part where it was talking about how to do the beginning of the first sleeve. I don't know how that happened, but what I do know is that I'm not going to go back and do it again. So if you're doing the sweater in my class and that part is confusing, then I can show you in person how that's supposed to go. Although it's relatively self-explanatory, and the second sleeve that you are about to see, that process is exactly the same. So I'd recommend watching that, trying to see, but I can clarify. If you're doing this not in my class, I'm sorry. Hopefully you can figure it out. All right, so now we are ready for the second sleeve, but first we have to knit across the front stitches. So we are going to, we have this sleeve finished. We are going to go, oh my gosh, we're gonna go into this stitch right here, and we are going to place the yarn between the needles, and we're going to knit 19. So 1, 2, 18, and 19. Okay, so I have my 19 stitches, and now I'm ready to knit the 14 stitches, which will constitute sleeve number 2. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, and 14. That is it for row number 1. Now we are ready to purl 14. So again, I'm gonna turn my work, make sure the yarn is in front, and purl 14. So again, 1, 2, and 14. That's it for row 2. Now we switch, and we are ready to knit 14. So we go across, we knit 1, 2, 14. And on to row number 4, we turn again and purl 14. So 1 and 14. And now we turn, and now, like I have said before, if you are doing a single color sweater, you would just continue, but since I am doing the different cuff, which we are now on to, I'm gonna cut that yarn. I'm gonna take my accent color here, and I'm going to do that the same way as I did before. So I'm gonna go in, knit 1, and purl 1, and then knit 1, and purl 1. Alright, that was the last purl. And the end of row 5. And now we turn and we finish this like we did for the other one. So we're going to start with a purl 2 together. And then knit 1, and then purl 1. So we purl 1, And then since there are only 2 left, we are now going to knit 2 together like this. And now we are ready for row 7, where we are going to bind off knitwise. So we are going to knit the first 2, pass the slip stitch, pass over, knit, pass over, knit, pass over, pass over, and we are at the end. So we are going to now cut, pull, and feed that through this loop, and pull it tight. And now we've got both sleeves completely finished. Part 3, body. We are in the home stretch now, and we are going to start working on the body. So row number 1, we knit 12. We are going to kind of tuck the sleeve in. We ignore that. It's these 12 right here that we're focusing on. So we're going to take our needle and go in. And we are going to take our main color. So I got my green. Once again, I make sure to leave a bit of a tail. And I knit those 12. So 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. Now, this is going to be the part where we connect all of it. And you can actually start to see how the sweater is coming out. We got these arms pointing toward us. So we are going to purl 12, purl 19, purl 12. So, come back, and I'm going to purl 12. So 1, 2, 11, and 12. All right. And now, as we can see, there is a gap here. We are just going to slide these stitches up, and we're going to purl 19. So we're going to go 1, 2, 18, and 19. Our last stitch here. And you kind of probably saw this last time. This stitch is kind of loose, so I'm going to take this tail, pull it tighter, and then continue. So now we just have the last 12. So we're going to go in and 1 and 12. All right, now we have all of those sections connected. So that's it for row 2. Now row 3, we're going to knit across those 43 stitches. So we just go in and knit across. So 1, 2, and knit the last one. That is 43, so we're good. Now we are going to do row number 4, which is to purl across these stitches. This is the last stockinette row that we're gonna do. So for mine, I'm gonna switch to the brown after this row. All right, and then I purl the last stitch, just like that. There we go. Now we're ready for row number 5, which is the knit 1, purl 1 across. And again, I'm doing that trim color in the brown, so I cut this and then switch to this. I'm gonna go in, slot that between, leaving a bit of a tail, so we can see right there. And I knit 1 and purl 1. I'm gonna switch off between those two, just doing a 1 by 1 rib like we've done. You should be confident with that at this point. Till the last stitch, which I will end. Okay, knit and a purl to get us to the end of row 5. There we go. Okay, now we are on to row number 6. We're gonna start row number 6 on a purl and then switch to a knit. And then we see we have a knit and then a purl to bring us to the end of row number 6. And now we are on the last row of the entire sweater if you are not counting the bind off. So this one does include a little decreasing just to cinch it up a little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to talk about the first little part. And after that, you should have a good understanding. So we're going to knit, purl 5 times. So knit 1, purl 1. That is 1. And then knit and purl. That is 2. Knit and purl. That is 3. Knit and purl. That is 4. Knit and purl. That is 5. All right. So now that we have the 5, we're ready to purl 2 together. So just like we did before, we are going to purl through both loops right there. So to show you that again, not just through this one, through both. And finish it off like normal. And then we're going to knit 1, purl 1 9 times. So again, knit, purl, knit. That is 5. So we are at the end. Now we are going to bind off knitwise. So just like we have done in the past, we are going to knit the first 2. Grab the one on the right, pull it over the one on the left, knit the next one, right over left, and continue doing that all the way till the end. All right, now we are to our very last stitch. So we knit that, pass over, and then we are going to cut a little bit of a tail right there, pull it up, and pull this tail through. Pull that tight. And we have knit the entire sweater. And now all that is left to do is the assembly at this point. Part 4, assembly. Okay, now we are on to the last part, which is putting it all together, the assembly. And if we take this and hold it together like so, you can see how this is going to become a sweater. And obviously we have a lot of random like tails to weave in, which is not super fun, but I'm going to talk through how to do that. The way that we are going to do this first is we're going to sew up the back. So once again, if you're just doing one solid color, you don't have to worry about changing color at any point. But for mine, I'm going to start using brown because that is where this picks up. So first thing I'm going to do is take my tapestry needle and thread that. And then I'm going to hold these side by side. Now we are whip stitching this So we are going to go through one side. We got one little loop, and we're going to pull it tight. And then we're going to go through the other side and pull it tight. And then back. And let's say just one more for good measure. That should be good. Okay. So now I'm going to leave that tail there for now. I'm going to grab my green. And I'm going to continue that same process across the back. All right, so this edge that's folded over, because as we know, stockinette stitch tends to curl, I'm going to pinch that together so that it goes right up to it, and I'm going to go in one side like that, and out the other. So the big thing is make sure to pull tight and don't skip like down quite a bit, because then we are going to have weird gaps at the back of the sweater. And I'm just going to tie that to the brown, because why not? Now this last little bit, we've got the brown kind of trim right here, so we are going to go in and out, and then in, just like that. And that is the same way that we're going to do all the other sides. So before we actually go in and do the sleeves, I think now is a good time to weave in the ends. And I'm going to show you first with the green, because this is going to be a little harder to see. There is a correct way of weaving in ends. You're supposed to do it with what's called the duplicate stitch. This is just a mini sweater that, I don't know, it's not that deep. So all that to say, we are going to just keep it simple for this one. And this, my tail's kind of short, but I'm going to make do. I would just recommend basically finding a row of these little bumps here and weaving in and out. And I'm right at the back. So if I go in, out, I'm going to go through about 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do 5. 5 of those, and I'm going to pull it right up. And now we will give a little room to flex, so I might just trim this slightly. But again, this is going to be on the inside, so don't really need to worry about that. So I'm going to do that same thing for all the other tails, just in and out, all the way across. And pull it tight. Give it a little cut so that ideally when we stretch it, it comes like right back to there. All right, now we are on the home stretch. We are going to pull this armhole out and subsequently all of these little extra bits. And we're going to pull the other one out as well. And I'm just going to do this one first. Doesn't matter which one you start with. But the same as before, I'm going to thread my needle and line this up. There we go. So that, there we go. We go this way, this way. Just making sure that there aren't any gaps. Like that. And then again, for good measure, I'm just going to tie this to this. we'll leave that for now. And now I'm gonna use this little string with the green to go the rest of the way. So, in one side. Now this one, there's a bit of a like weird gap there, so I'm not gonna go through there. I'm gonna go under here because I want to make sure that it's nice and solid. But yeah, in one side, out the other. All the way across like that. All right, now we're at the underarm, and there's a bit of a hole there. This is like a really common problem with sweaters, actually, especially when you do the yoke. We just need to run our needle through there. There we go, now the camera's focused. We're gonna run it under there, we pull it tight, and then we go back across there. Pull it tight again. And then at this point, now all we need to do is just weave those ends in. All right, now it's the exact same for the other sleeve, so when you get to that one, we'll do this. Now we have our last little end to weave in. I'm gonna go up vertically, pull it through, pull a little tighter, and cut that. And there, we have it all finished on the inside. Now we are going to do the big reveal. We turn it inside out. We pop this out. And pop this out as well. And there we have it. Tiny little mini sweater. All right. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you understanding generally the construction for a raglan yoke sweater and learning a couple new techniques along the way. Thank you guys for watching.
Oh, you look malnourished. Let's get some bread, fried an egg, yolk, and drown in the syrup. You pick a spot.